J-Dub, obviously with this game plan, it was going to put a heavy emphasis on J-Dub needing to be able to score the basketball and his ability to space the floor. How many times tonight did Minnesota get a stop and then someone would get an offensive rebound and the ball would get sprayed out to J-Dub and he did a back-breaking three? Or nail help off to try to deal with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, swing pass, backbreaker three. Those were so important in this game. And then in his on-ball reps, perpetually getting into the lane, getting that dribble penetration, bringing in multiple defenders. Again, even when we're talking about the offensive rebounding piece, there's a lot of it that's super frustrating with Minnesota where it's like Rudy Gobert is... I find Rudy Gobert to just be an incredibly frustrating player to watch, and I just do not understand his stands and all of the belief in his talent level, because like to me he's a defensive player that gets himself out of position in no man's land constantly. He's a defensive rebounder that will legitimately just get his butt kicked by mediocre kind of like replacement level starting centers in this league. I don't see it. But there are also offensive rebounds that were happening tonight by a product of the rotations, by a product of the fact that there are people stepping over in the lane. There was an offensive rebound that Ant gave up because he came over to strong side zone against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on an ISO, and Kason Wallace just ended up crashing in behind. There's a lot of like stuff that comes from the way that the defense is getting broken down by Shai, by getting broken down by J-Dub. But I thought J-Dub, that's arguably the best game of his career tonight. Goes for 34 points on 24 shots, 5 assists, just 2 turnovers. He had 3 steals in this game as well. Unbelievable game. Spot up shooting down the board. Again, we've talked about this time and time again. How are the Thunder going to be able to win in the postseason? They need their young guys to confidently step into tough, contested catch and shoot threes and knock them down. Chet, 2 more threes tonight. A huge one off of a pick and pop where Ant came peeling off of his man and got a great contest, and he just confidently stepped in there and ripped the cord. We talked about J-Dub hitting catch and shoot threes. Lou Dort hits 1. Kenrich Williams hits 1. Alex Caruso hits 2. Isaiah Joe hits 1. Kason Wallace hits 1. They hit the shots they needed to hit. 43% from 3 tonight, 16 for 37. Chet Holmgren, like... that defensive play on that spin move from J.D. McDaniels, swatting it off the glass. His aggressive ISO attacks against Naz Reid, where he's spinning off of him and dunking. The spot-up shooting like we talked about. Kason Wallace, he had 3 or 4 tough, contested mid-range pull-up jump shots tonight. Those are found money in the playoffs. Alex Caruso, obviously the destructive defender that we know he can be, but all those sneaky cuts along the baseline, just finding those openings when his defender turns his head. He was amazing at that back in his days with the Lakers. This looks like a team that has learned from previous failures and that has turned into a championship-level basketball team. One of my things that I love about the game of basketball is it forces you to overcome adversity. It forces you to overcome checkpoints and tests to get to where you want to go. They had to be pushed by Denver. Tonight, even pushed by Minnesota. Their weaknesses emphasized. I didn't like the game plan at the beginning of the series. I thought Minnesota was accentuating their strengths. Here in Minnesota, they played the game plan that accentuated OKC's weaknesses, and they got out of here with the split. Series isn't over, obviously, but I feel pretty strongly that Oklahoma City is going to close the deal. I think they've demonstrated themselves to be the better team in the series. I think their star is a better processor and a better, more versatile scorer than Anthony Edwards is. I thought Jalen Williams wasn't hard to do tonight with the low bar that Julius Randle set, but I thought he was far and away the best secondary star tonight. Chet Holmgren outplayed any Minnesota role player except for Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Just a down the roster outclassing in this series by the Oklahoma City Thunder against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I think they're going to go to the finals, and I think they're going to win. I think they match up extremely well with Indiana. I think they match up extremely well with New York. And we could be heading into our first situation where we have a roster young enough and cheap enough because of the situation with all their young talent to where we could have some sustained success in the NBA. This was the chance. I had Oklahoma City as my second leading championship contender coming into tonight, or coming into this playoff run. but I viewed them as vulnerable. I viewed them as vulnerable this season. But with each passing year, the talent increase for Chet as he continues to develop, the talent increase for Jalen, the talent increase for every one of these young guys off the bench like Cason Wallace. They're going to get better and better every year from here in a way that's going to be probably more impactful than whatever mid-level exception you can sign or mediocre trade you can make on the margins. This was the year to get Oklahoma City, and I think tonight was the last chance that anybody had, and I think Minnesota blew it. And so with that being the case, this is the year that's supposed to be too early, and it looks like to me that Oklahoma City is going to get it done. Super, super exciting for Timberwolves fans, or excuse me, for Thunder fans.